Okay, so let us begin with chanting of Omkar. Sairam. So in business studies, before summer vacations, we have completed first chapter, that was nature and purpose of management, and we were discussing about second chapter, that is the principles of management. I think we have completed Taylor's principles, or whole chapter we have completed. How much we have completed before break? Would we?
सर सेकंड चैप्टर भी हो गया था.
Second chapter हो गया था. Okay. So in second chapter we have two sections. Quick revision, that is principles of management. So two management thinkers are in our syllabus. One is the F.W. Taylor and second one is the Henry Fayol. So F.W. Taylor is known as father of scientific management because he introduced for the first time the scientific approach in the field of management. So he is called as father of scientific management. He has written a book also in the same name, that is the Principles of Scientific Management. So he is known as father of scientific management. He worked in a factory starting as a laborer, apprentice. He had tried to understand each and every difficulty and problem that is faced by laborers, workers working in the factory. So it's more focus of Taylor, Sairam, on improving the conditions in a factory, improving the conditions, working conditions for laborers, for workers, and how to improve the labor productivity and overall productivity. That was the main focus of F.W. Taylor, to improve industrial efficiency, to improve the productivity. And we understand the term productivity, that when we are able to get more amount of output with the similar amount of input, then we can say that productivity is higher. Last year in objectives of business studies, I think you must have remember that there was objective of business. First was the market standing, then there was innovation, then third objective was productivity. This productivity is very essential for reducing the cost of production or per unit cost. And this productivity is achieved by making best use of resources or by minimizing the waste, all type of waste. So F.W. Taylor wanted to improve the productivity, especially labor productivity. He wanted to improve the conditions for workers in the factory. So workers will work in a hygienic, healthy environment. They will have proper facilities, and ultimately their productivity will be improved. So focal point of studies of Taylor was worker. Slowly and gradually, he improved from the position of a apprentice or worker to the till the position of chief manager or general manager of a company. So later on, he has drafted some principles of management also. So Taylor's total contribution is divided in two parts: principles of scientific management given by F.W. Taylor and techniques of scientific management. So two parts are there. Principles of scientific management are theoretical explanation, and techniques of scientific management are their application, practical application, how to use these principles of scientific management, what to do to use the principles of scientific management in a factory or in a manufacturing unit. That is explained by Taylor using the techniques of scientific management. So two different sections of Taylor. Number one is principles of scientific management, and number two is the techniques of scientific management. Are you understanding, Sairam?
Yes, sir.
So in principles of scientific management, Taylor's ultimate focus is on being logical. He wanted the management of the factories or workers be rational. Be rational means be scientific. Use logic, especially when you are going to take the decisions regarding anything, regarding purchase of machines and equipment, regarding a decision regarding hiring of a labor or employee, or decision regarding the use of a particular method of production. All these decisions must be based on logic, scientific logic. Then the decision will be more beneficial for the organization. So he said it as a principle of science, not rule of thumb. Okay. So he focused on science. Rule of thumb means illogical decisions. No, I think this is right. That's why I'm taking this. That should not happen. Okay, so that trial and error method or hit or miss method, that creates a lot of loss. There is no logic behind that. No, so we keep on trying that. We will try the first method. If we get success, all right. Otherwise, we will start second, third. That way, we waste a lot of resources in this process of trial and error. So he insisted on scientific, logical approach for taking any decisions. So he drafted the first principle of management, that is the science, not rule of thumb. That was the ultimate focus of Taylor, that there must be scientific methods or logical methods of taking the decisions. Then his second point of focus was cooperation between workers and management. Because the time when Taylor worked in the factory, he drafted his principles. It was the time of beginning of industrial revolution. At that time, there was everyday fight between labor unions and management. Labor unions used to threaten the management of the factory, owners of the factory, that we will go on the strike if you will not accept our demands. On the other side, the tool in the hands of management of the factories was lockdown. So management of the factories threaten or used to threaten the workers that we will shut the factory, we will close the production, so you will lose the jobs, all of you will lose the jobs. These were the tactics used at that time. So workers used to threaten the management by saying that we will go on the strike, and worker management used to threaten by saying that we will lock the factory. So Taylor felt that both the methods, either strike by workers or lockdown by the owners, uh, make the loss of production. It is a loss of economy, loss of the nation. We wanted that there must be a good relationship between workers and management. So he drafted remaining principles, and they focus only on this aspect, that how to maintain harmonious relationship between workers and management. We have given the principle of harmony, not discord, or cooperation, not individualism, or development of each and every person to his greatest efficiency. So these all principles basically focus on one thing: to improve relationship between workers and management. So factories will work effectively and efficiently, productivity will improve, profits of the factories will improve, and if profit of the factories will improve, then definitely workers will also get better facilities, better wages, and other services. So that was the ultimate focus point of FW Taylor. Am I clear, Sairam?
Yes, sir.
So this is the essence of studies of Taylor. Then he thought that only giving lectures will not work. So I have to suggest some techniques which will help in improving the labor productivity, or that cooperation between workers and management, or how to bring the science in real life situations. No, it is one thing to say we should be scientific or use scientific approach, but how to inculcate that scientific approach in day-to-day situation. So for that, he conducted many studies because he started working as a laborer and he reached to the higher position. So he conducted all these studies as an experiment in factories where he was working. So these are called techniques suggested by F.W. Taylor or techniques of scientific management. Okay, so first technique he suggested that was the functional foremanship. Okay, so functional foremanship suggests that the purpose of this functional foremanship was improving the quality of supervision. ना foreman भी supervisor है ना. Foreman is a lower level manager. आपने पढ़ा ना 3 levels of management: top level, middle level, and bottom level. So foreman comes in the category of bottom level manager or supervisory manager, supervisory management. So Taylor experienced that how to improve the quality of supervision. So for that he suggested or he thought that a one single foreman may not be effective to look after all the aspects of a worker's job. So he suggested that the work of a foreman is broadly classified in 2 parts. Okay, so there are 2 different types of jobs. One group of or one set of persons will be the set of persons who are involved in thinking process. So he separated thinking and doing. And also one group should be the group of intellectuals or thinkers. They will think, they will make the plans, and they will suggest what to do. And second one will be the executors. So he separated thinking and doing, and he gave the name planning department and production department. So he suggested that there should be 4 specialist foremen in planning department and 4 specialist foremen in production department. So a worker should get instructions from these 8 different foremen. If he has some problem in machine and equipment, so he will go to the repairing boss. If there is some dispute, then there is disciplinarian. Quality is good or not, then there is inspector. What route is to be followed, what step, what sequence is to be followed by worker, then there is a route killer. What instructions are to be given to the worker, there is instruction card killer. So these specialized jobs are being separated. So now, in place of one supervisor, a worker was instructed or supervised by 8 different foremen, 4 in production department and 4 in planning department. So that concept is named by Taylor as functional foremanship. Functions of foreman. They are classified, they are divided in 8 different sections, and now 8 different persons will look after the different aspects of worker. That is a concept of or technique of functional foremanship. Is it clear? Sairam?
Sir.
Then he suggested the technique of standardization and simplification. So standardization, he said, is compulsory, so we can later on compare the actual performance. If we don't have the standards, we cannot compare actual performance, and we cannot decide whether actual performance is up to the mark or not. No, it is satisfactory or not. So there must be some parameters against which actual performance can be measured. Okay, actual performance can be judged. So he said that we have to set standard for each and everything. Standard of machines and equipment, the quality of machine and equipment should be of this standard. Standards of materials that we will purchase. Yes. Sairam, anyone has raised the hand? Standard of material, standard of material means that suppose some factory is making the biscuit, then they need wheat or wheat flour, then they can decide that we will use the wheat of this quality only. उनके हम तो लोकमन wheat जो other variety वो use करेंगे. That is the standardization. So he stress on fixing the standards for each and everything. Standardization of method, standard equipment and tools, standardization of working conditions, standardization of methods of selection of the employees, how the employees will be selected, that method should be standardized. Okay, so there will be uniformity in work. Okay, and simplification. He was against of using different types of designs or sizes. So he suggested that simplify the processes, have minimum designs, so that will be easy to understand for workers. If there are complex designs or many designs are there, uh, then workers are in a situation of difficulty to understand. They are not able to understand it. So this simplification and standardization. Then he suggested, he conducted some studies which are called work studies of Taylor. So in work studies of Taylor, there are few more important studies, that is time study, fatigue study, method study, and motion study. Okay, so time study, as I said, he was keen of standardization. So for time study, he wanted that there must be fixed time for completing a specific job. So for that, we have to conduct time study. Is we have to fix the standard time to complete a specific job. For that, he conducted time study. So he used average worker, average working conditions, average materials, and he asked the worker to complete the job. And with a stopwatch, he measured the time taken by that worker, and whatever time was taken by that worker, that was fixed as standard time. Then he studied different methods of production, you know, and he tried analyze the different methods on the basis of their merits and demerits, and one best method is selected out of them. That became the standard method. Later on, company will follow that method only. Similarly, he conducted fatigue study, that after how much time workers get tired, they feel tired, they get fatigue. So to re-energize them, he suggested that the time interval for rest. So he suggested that we should give some rest time to the workers, so workers can get energies back and they can work with the full speed. Okay, so these some experiments are conducted by Taylor, and they are called as motion study. One motion study was the study related to movement of body parts. So he was very keen that every body movement consumes energy, and if we will make more movement of body, means more energy is consumed, and worker will get tired very quickly. So he suggested that we should list out the required motions and unrequired motion, or productive motions and unproductive motions while performing a specific job. Suppose I am teaching in the class, so he will study me and he will tell me that while teaching the student, these are the movements which are needed and these body movements are not needed. So workers were expected to do only productive movements. Unproductive movements are to be reduced. So workers can save their energies and they can work with the same speed for the longer time. So he conducted fatigue studies. So appropriate rest time can be given in between the work and workers can re-energize themselves. Then he gave a concept of differential piece-based system. Differential piece-based system means two different rates of wage payment. So he wanted that inefficient workers should become efficient. So he was of the opinion that if we will pay higher wages, higher rate of wages to the efficient workers, when inefficient workers will see that they are getting less wages and their colleagues are getting more wages, then inefficient ones will try to become efficient. Slowly and gradually they will try to improve. So he suggested that there must be two methods of wage payment, two rates of wage payment, higher rate for those who produce standard number of units per day or more than that, and lower rates of wages are to be paid those who produce less number of units than standard. So this is the motivation for those who produce more units, they will get higher rate. It will be motivation for those also who are getting less wages, they will try to improve their performance and they also try to become the efficient workers. So that way he suggested, though this concept was opposed by workers a lot. No, workers said that this concept is making difference, dividing the workers. Okay, so there was a uh, what protest against the tailor by the workers that this is dividing us. This is pro-management method, but ultimately purpose of tailor was to improve the conditions, and inefficient workers will be motivated because of higher rate of wages to the efficient workers. So these techniques were suggested by F.W. Taylor. So his contribution is divided into two sections. One is the principles of scientific management, and second one is the techniques of scientific management. Is it clear? Sairam, this is the overview of Taylor. Okay, Sairam.
Yes, sir.
Now, second management, and one more thing about Taylor is that the principles and techniques of F.W. Taylor are more relevant in production units, factories. These principles are more applicable, more relevant in factories or production units. Second management thinker was Henry Fayol. Okay. Henry Fayol started his work as a manager, and throughout his life, he remained in the top management. So his experiences are different. No. Because he was involved in the management of the top level, so he was worried about general management of organizations, how to improve the condition of general administration, day-to-day administration of the companies, of the factories or other offices. So he drafted 14 principles of general administration. So that's why Fayol's principles are applicable in all types of organizations, not only in the factories, but Fayol's principles are applied or applicable in commercial organizations, schools, hospitals, business houses. Everywhere his principles are applicable because he drafted 14 principles of administration. So, can any of you tell some of the principles, explain some of the principles? आप में से कोई बता सकता है कुछ प्रिंसिपल जो आपको आता हो, whatever you know, out of 14. Very interesting principles given by Henry Fayol. So would any of you like to explain any of the principles? Sairam, it should not be one way. Let us involve. Okay.
Division
Who
of
will tell
work.
first one? Okay, go ahead.
Work is divided into small tasks and groups, and each specialist and trained person should perform this work. This will help a business to do the work efficiently and effectively by performing the work by a specialist.
Okay. So this first principle as suggested by Vatsal, that is the division of work. Okay. So this principle was given by Fayol. This says that whole work should be divided into small parts. Now, because it is not possible for any one single person to do each and everything, to complete the whole task. So, to make it possible to complete the task, he suggested that work should be divided into small fractions or small parts. And after dividing the work, each unit of the work, each type of work should be given to the person who is most suitable to perform that task. Okay, so we have to first divide the work into small units, small parts, and then we have to find out that out of our group of persons, out of our staff or people who are working with us or workers, those who are with us, who is the most suitable person that he can do this work in the best possible manner. And that work should be given to that person. Okay, and then let that person continuously do that job for the long time, continuously doing that job, similar job for the long time. Slowly and gradually, that person will become the specialist of that job. Suppose someone is typing on a typewriter for a long time, what happens that that person becomes so expert that without seeing towards keyboard, he keep on typing perfectly. Okay, some person who is doing the tailoring work, he cuts the cloth. So after some time, he becomes so expert that with minimum wastage of the cloth, he cut the cloth in a perfect manner. So that is the advantage of specialization. So there are two important advantages of this principle of division of work. Number one, completion of tasks. If we will not divide the work into small units, work will not be completed. No single person has the capacity to do the everything. And second, it leads to the specialization. When a person is given the work of his choice according to his ability, and he continuously perform that job for the long time, by doing that same task for the long time, he become the expert of that activity. That is the specialization. He become the expert or specialist. Okay, so that is the first principle. That is the division of work. Anyone else?
Sir, authority and responsibility.
Okay, what is this?
Sir, according to him, authority is the right to give orders and obtain obedience,
Okay,
and responsibility is the corollary of authority.
okay. Now, this is very important principle of authority and responsibility. Rights and duties. So as we said, authority basically the right to give instructions, orders, and seek the compliance. So authority lies with the superiors, and superiors have the right to give orders to their subordinates, instructions to their subordinates, and to seek compliance. Seek compliance means that they can make it sure that whatever instructions are given by them to the subordinates have done the work according to their instructions or not. And if subordinates do not do the work according to the instructions given by them, they have right to take the action against the subordinates. That is for seek compliance. If they will not have the right to punish the subordinates or take action against the subordinates, then no subordinate will listen to the superior. So that way this language is used that authority is the right to give orders, instructions or commands and to seek the compliance. Not only giving command, it is not complete. If I can give only command but no one listens to my command, that is what is the use of that command. So only giving command is not sufficient, and seeking compliance is very important. That whatever commands are given, are they followed? Is the work done according to the commands? And if not, then what action can be taken? What can be done? Or how that person can be compelled to follow the instructions? That is the seek compliance. So authority is the right to give instructions, orders, and responsibility means to follow the orders, to work according to the orders given by superiors. So whatever instructions are given by superior, it is a responsibility of subordinates to fulfill or complete the work. Okay. So here I have already discussed with you authority had three dimensions. Authority, first dimension, as we are discussing, that is right to give instructions or order or command. Second dimension of authority, right to take decisions. Authority involves taking decisions. Who can take a decision? The person who is the authority. And third dimension of authority, right to use the resources. Okay. And responsibility means completing the assigned task. This is the definition only. But what is the principle? The principle of authority and responsibility says that there must be a balance between authority and responsibility. It is to be understood in a different way, that basically it is not related to authority, it is related to responsibility. So Fuel wanted to say that whenever we are going to give some responsibility to the person, required amount of authority should be given. So there must be a parity or equality between authority and responsibility. If we will give only responsibility, but if the person is not given the authority, then that person will not be able to fulfill his responsibility. Okay, so before assigning the responsibility or giving the duties to the people, we must also give authority to them so they can fulfill their responsibility. We suggested that there must be a balance, है ना, between authority and responsibility. If authority will be more, disproportionate authority will make a person dictator. So authority without responsibility can be misused, है ना. Authority without responsibility can be misused, and responsibility without authority cannot be completed. Responsibility without authority cannot be completed. So we have to maintain a balance between authority and responsibility. So he said authority and responsibility must go hand on hand. So there is a balance between authority and responsibility. Okay. So this is the principle of authority and responsibility. Anyone else?
Scalar chain.
Scalar chain. Can you explain us the scalar chain?
Sir, an organization is basically has several sections which divides the authority, and this can be listed via several ranks which run from highest to lowest. In such cases, if a lower leveled person wants to contact his subordinate superiors, his conversation has to go through a number of ranks which we call chains. But however, in case of emergency, his conversation or the thing which he wants to talk, he can directly have a conversation with his superior.
Okay. So this scalar chain is basically arranging the different positions in a sequence. Sequence means from top to the bottom, higher to the lower level. Okay, so as we know, management hierarchy or management hierarchy. Management hierarchy means arranging the job positions in a sequence. All of you understand that in every organization there are different job positions, top positions, middle level management, bottom level management, workers. We have already discussed. So a scalar chain is a chain of authority ranging from top to the bottom. It shows how does the authority flow, how will the authority flow from top level to bottom level, and it explains superior subordinate relationship. So the person who are at the top level in the scalar chain, they are superiors. Suppose someone is higher than me in position in the scalar chain, then he is my boss. So this scalar chain explains superior subordinate relationship, and it also works as a chain of communication in a formal organization. Okay, communication, you understand. Suppose there are 3 or 4 layers. Suppose there is a GM, then chief manager, then assistant manager, then clerk. Suppose these are the persons. Then according to this scalar chain, if some order is given by GM, that will go to the chief manager first. Then this file from chief manager will go to the assistant manager. Then from assistant manager to the manager. Then this will lead to the clerk. This way, or there may be some sequence, different sequences that this file will go to the manager, then this will go to the clerk. So this is called chain of communication. How will the communication flow in the organization? If a communication begins from a specific level, then how will it reach to the other level? So this work as a chain of communication. So it shows 2 things. It shows superior subordinate relationship, who is the superior and who is the subordinate. And second, it's work as a chain of communication. How will the communication flow in a formal system of organization? Okay. So there are 2 things that we have to understand from this scalar chain. If you have seen, it is a pyramid shape. The scalar chain is in a pyramid shape. So pyramid shape shows that at the top level, authority is highest, but number of persons is less. But as we come down, the number of persons increases, but the amount of authority reduces. And orders and instructions come from top to the bottom. That means authority flows downwards. Authority flows downwards, and responsibility flows upward. Authority flows downward. Authority comes from top to the bottom, and responsibility flows upward. So what are the examples of, इसको बोलते हैं upward communication, downward communication. So what will come from top to the bottom? What form of communication will come from superior to subordinate? Orders, instructions, plans. Okay, that will come from top. So superiors will give orders, instructions, commands to the subordinates. And what will go from bottom to the top? That may be reports, performance report that this work is being done, request, applications for some work, complaints. These will go from bottom to suggestions. No? So if workers have some problems, they have some complaint, or they want to give some suggestions, that will be sent from bottom level to the top level. So this way, flow of communication takes place in a formal structure of organization. So this is scalar chain, and normally what happens that no one can violate this chain. Everyone has to follow the scalar chain for communication. But Buell has given one exception, that is called condition of gangplank. Gangplank is a situation, emergency situation. Basically, it's an emergency situation in which this scalar chain can be violated, and two equal rank officers can talk to each other without following proper scalar chain. So that is one situation. If there is an emergency and the officers involved feel that it will delay the decision is urgent, in that case, two equal rank officers can talk to each other. In that case, scalar chain can be violated. So that situation is named by Buell as a gangplank. So gangplank basically is exception to the scalar chain. This is a situation in which scalar chain can be violated. So that work as a chain of communication, chain of authority and responsibility, and in a formal structure of organization, it helps in searching the source of communication. From where the communication started, that can be searched on the basis of scalar chain. Okay, anyone else would like to tell any principle? So what you need to do, each one of you will prepare at least one principle of management. So tomorrow's class, I will ask you everyone to explain at least one principle. So you can decide what principle you are going to prepare. So this way, and especially what is the essence of that principle that you have to understand. Okay, what is the purpose of that principle? So 14 principles are there. So two students can prepare one principle. I think 23, 24 students are there. कितने बच्चे आपकी क्लास में टोटल? Except Rohit Chokshi, all are there in 12th. जो 11th में थे वो सारे आ गए लगभग, है ना? कितने बच्चे थे लास्ट ईयर? 24.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So all are in 12th standard. So prepare, and now don't be lazy. अब वो नहीं चलेगा कि कर लेंगे या तो ठीक है. Now you have to prepare thoroughly every day. So each one of you will prepare at least one principle of management. And tomorrow हम लोग आगे कम पढ़ेंगे, पहले पुराना जो हमारा बैलेंस है वो क्लियर करके चलेंगे, है ना? कोई जल्दी नहीं है. We will complete the syllabus in time, no problem, no hurry, and we will go smoothly, thoroughly. And you have to also prepare everything on time. Don't wait till school खुलेगा तब हम करेंगे सब कुछ. पता नहीं खुलेगा कि नहीं खुलेगा, क्या कंडीशन है, God knows, है ना? So whatever time is available, make best use of this time. तो what time अभी स्कूल नहीं आते तो पूरा टाइम घर पे, आपके 12 बजे के बाद पूरा टाइम आपका फ्री रहता है. तो start studying, thoroughly preparing, and if you have doubts, please ask the doubts in the class. Come with the problem, specific problem कि मेरी ये problem है, समझना है. Come, your problem may benefit others also, so don't hesitate in asking the problems or doubts. ठीक है? That's all for today. But these principles of Buell Taylor, they are very important. So if we will discuss it in collective manner, then we will be able to understand it easily. So let us have Shanti part, then we will conclude. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Sairam.
Sairam, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sairam, sir.
Ram.